Hi everybody, a huge welcome to our first live masterclass. This is amazing. Thank you so much for joining us. Right away, if you could just let us know if you're here. We like to know if you can see us, we like to know if it's working, and most of all, we like to know where you're from. So please pop what country you're from in the comments. That would be fabulous. We always try and get as many countries as we can because we have, I think we're in 184 countries now, which is absolutely amazing. So let's try and tick off as many as we can. So I think there's about 195 to get through. I'm Lisa. I'm the community manager for Formula Botanica, and I'm here with the lovely Lorraine and Brooke. If you'd just like to say hello.
Yes, thank you, Lisa, and a big warm welcome to everyone joining us this evening for our, it's evening for us, for our first live Q&A for this masterclass. We don't do many of them, but we do have Q&As for you to interact with us, with our education team members, and to put your questions to us about the masterclass. And I can't wait to see all of the questions come in this evening. I'm sure we're going to be absolutely flooded. You've seen me in your masterclass, of course. I've taught you lessons 1, 2, and 3, which are now available in your study area. I hope you've watched them. Drop us a comment and tell us whether you've watched 1, 2, or 3 yet. And yeah, I can't wait to chat to you this evening. So thank you. Over to you, Brooke.
Hi everyone, my name is Brooke and I'm the formulation tutor at Formula Botanica. So I'm part of the education team, so I'm here to answer any questions you have after watching lessons 1, 2, and 3. Hopefully you've got through all 3 of them by now, and if you have any questions about formulation, your equipment, your ingredients, we're going to direct you of where you want to go.
And you know, if you haven't watched all 3 lessons, it's okay. There's still time. I still see comments in our skincare entrepreneur mastermind group saying, you know, I haven't watched the lessons, but it's okay. You've got 3 to watch, so that will take you about 30 minutes. We've got a couple more. I think there's 9 lessons in total. So don't panic. And we are going to be here with you every single step of the way. And I mention our skincare entrepreneur mastermind group because it is buzzing. There are so many people in there right now. So if you're not a member, you would have been sent a link. Go and join it. There are 50,000 people, I think, taking this masterclass all over the world. So it is amazing. So it's worth joining because you can do it with other people. You don't have to do it on your own. You're supported by an entire community of people who are beginners, all different ranges, and you're supported by us as well. And not only the lessons, we also give you a 32-page, I think it's 32-page workbook with, which Lorraine is fantastically QVC modeling. And Brooke, and me, sorry, I feel left out now as we speak. And it really does have everything in that you need. I still see comments in the SCM, people saying, you know, can I formulate, like, can I make this cream? Because everyone has a little bit of fear before they start, but we're here to support you through the entire process. We're here to tell you that you can do it, to show you that you can do it, and show you how, and give you everything you need to be able to make it as well. So there really is no excuse. We can do it, and we're going to do it together, so don't worry. I'm just going to have a couple of countries here. I've got, well, that's not a country, but Cincinnati, hello. USA, lots of people from America, Pakistan, New Zealand, Canada. This happens every time, and it really is important to reference, and we always like to do it, that we have such a fantastic international community. It doesn't matter where you're from, you can do this. You can join our masterclass, you can formulate from wherever you are. I've got Nigeria, Barcelona, jealous, but okay, lovely weather, Cape Town. So thank you so much for joining us. If you have any questions for us as we're going, please drop them in. We had a few threads, Facebook threads. We've taken some questions from there and we're going to answer those. But if you have questions while you're watching, please drop them in and we will try and get to them in this live as well. So we would love to hear from you. And let's have Lorraine and Brooke work for their money. Let's really try and give them some questions.
Thanks, Lisa.
That's okay. You are welcome. Right, now let's just have a little look. Let's scroll to the top. I'm going to start with a really good question because we've had 3 lessons now, I believe, of the masterclass. So Laura asks a fabulous question to start off with. So what is an emulsion? Brooke, if you want to take this one.
No problem. So Simply put, an emulsion is a combination of oil and water where the two products have been combined together using an emulsifier. So an emulsifier, as Lorraine explained in, I believe it's lesson 3, it has a hydroscopic head and a lipophilic tail. So one part loves water, one part loves oil, and it can join the two together. So that basically brings both phases together, both parts, and they become one unit essentially. And that wouldn't normally happen when you pour water and oil together. They would normally just separate out, but it works essentially as a bridge between the molecules to combine them together, and you end up with an emulsion.
So one part loves water, one part loves oil. I love that. It's like a genius little relationship. Right,
And
James.
that's the emulsion you're going to make.
That is, can you hold it up again, Lorraine? Because that is just brilliant. There's so many people that look at stuff like that and they see it and it looks so professional and they think like, oh, I don't have one. As you can see, Lorraine hoards a lot of products behind her. So we need to spread the wealth a little bit. There's a lot of our graduates, but yes, we're working on that. Question from James. So watching, oh, they must mean another replay. I can only get a jewelry scale that goes down to 0.03. Is that okay? So is it okay for them to get that kind of scale if they're going to be working on the masterclass?
So generally a scale wouldn't go down to 0.03 specifically. It would usually be 0.01 to around 500. And if that's the case, then yes, that's perfectly fine. That's the one you want.
Mm-hmm.
For this masterclass, we're only going to be going down to about 0.5. So that's perfectly fine. You can use that one, no problem at all. But 0.03, I think they won't generally go down to that specific number. It would be 0.01.
Right, so James, I don't know where you're looking, but 0.01, that's where we're working. See, Lorraine's holding it up now. Just a quick mention as well, as Lorraine's holding up the lovely scales. We've had a lot of questions about ingredients everywhere, and please don't panic. Even if you have to get your ingredients a little bit later, that is absolutely fine. We just recommend you watch the lessons as they become available. Make as many notes as you can. You can do it a little bit later. It's absolutely okay. So do not worry. And our lovely colleague Anna Green informed me today that our Amazon stores, if our people helping in the comments can drop the links in, that'd be really helpful. We've got them for UK and USA. If you just check in there, I believe we have almost everything. So I'd recommend going there first and also checking your suppliers, which are in your workbook. People are still asking for the suppliers. We list everything in there, everyone we recommend. So do not fret. Okay. Next question. So Michael says, this is probably one for you, Lorraine. I'm having trouble with my formulation philosophy. Can I change my mind as I go?
Of course you can, Michael. It is not set in stone. It is something that you will work on for the entirety of your career running, being a formulator and maybe running a beauty brand eventually as well. It is something that you will continuously refine, but you've got to figure out exactly what you stand for before you just start potting things. And what I mean by that is I've had lots of people start at Formula Botanica over the years who sort of go, I'm just going to make one lip balm and then I'll sell it. Life doesn't work like that. You're not going to run a successful business off the back of that. You have to figure out what it is you stand for. And in episode 9 of your masterclass, I'm going to introduce you to quite a few of the Formula Botanica graduates. And I've got lots of products stood behind me. And I'll be holding some of them up and talking about their philosophies and how they set themselves apart. But no, it's not something that you have to decide now and never move from again. I mean, looking at what I do with Formula Botanica, I'm constantly refining the brand and what we stand for and our overall philosophy. So yeah, don't worry too much. You're all good.
Okay.
Just get started.
Yeah, that's the best advice, I think. So who is this? Sorry. What's happened here? Oh, no, I just clicked the right one. So Ada says, I've missed the lessons, but going to go back and watch all tonight. I'm so excited. So thank you, Ada, for joining along with us. That is amazing.
I think it's worth pointing out that you can go and watch all the lessons again. I've seen some comments already come past from people going, I missed it. Go and log into your study area. Everything will be there until May 17th at 4 p.m. UK time. And then it all goes away. But until that point, watch it as many times as you want.
Exactly. Wendy, also says, watched 1, 2, and 3. Great stuff. So thank you very much. It is lovely to see some of your comments here. Wendy, you're coming in thick and strong with the comments here. how long will I have to access the masterclass? 17th, as Lorraine just said. So you have plenty of time. Please do not worry.
And I should add, I mean, fill in the workbook as you're going through the masterclass. You will get the full formulation sheet after you've completed the formulation. And then you still can just take all that information and use it for as long as you want. I mean, you know, you'll have lifetime access to that, to your workbook, to your notes, to what you learn, to the formulation sheet that you have. So you'll be able to still go and make it. Just because the videos are disappearing doesn't mean you won't be able to formulate as long as you follow along.
Exactly. That is absolutely correct. Right, next one. M. Pierce, not sure if that's Mr. or Miss, but what protective, personal protective equipment do I need? Brooke, what do people need when they start thinking about masterclass?
So the first thing we'd recommend you have is some form of gloves. These could be latex gloves, natural gloves, biodegradable gloves, whichever ones you can get a hold of. But these protect your hands, and they protect your hands from things like any of the ingredients, and also for your product from the oils that are present on your hands as well. Something like a pair of glasses, either sort of safety goggles or even just a plain pair of plastic glasses. Those can protect your eyes when you're using ingredients like essential oils, which can be fairly irritating to your eyes because they've got quite a strong scent to them. So just in case of any splashes, it's best just to have them just in case. Another thing that we would protect you, personal protective equipment we would recommend you have is an apron. So this is to protect your clothes, this is to stop anything from getting into your product and to stop any splashes that you might have while making the product. It stops it damaging any of your clothes. If you've got long hair, try and tie it up, sort of pull it out of the way so it's not hanging in whatever you're doing, because it can be quite annoying and it's not ideal. But other than that, that's about it. There's nothing sort of massively crazy you need in terms of personal protective equipment. It's just gloves, apron, goggles.
Fantastic. Thank you, Brooke.
Yeah. And I should just add, if you haven't watched lesson 2 yet, go and watch it, because you'll watch me unpack. Got it here. Not for sale yet. One day we will get there. And I talk about, you know, the various tools you'll need in there as well as PPE. So go and check out episode 2 if you haven't watched it yet.
We always have to remind people that we don't sell the lab in the bag, because if we don't say it straight away, the comments are flooded with, can I buy the lab in the bag? As Lorraine says, we're working on it. So Vicky,
Yes.
if you're watching, a little job for you. So this is from Sophie in the Moment, which is a great name. What a fabulous name. I'm not sure if we can answer this at this point, but let's try it. What is the ration of emulsifier you need to use in the emulsion? What is the minimum amount? So how do we tell them what to do at this stage? How do we show them what they can do to make their formulation?
Who's taking this one? Me?
Brooke?
You can do, yeah. I don't mind.
Lorraine. Ladies first.
It depends on what your supplier tells you. So, for instance, we're working with an emulsifier called Vegetal or Montanov 68. And as I explained in today's lesson 3, it is an emulsifier that has 2 chemical compounds in it, CTRL alcohol, CTRL glucoside. I've seen a couple of people say, can I just buy CTRL alcohol to make the emulsion? No, you cannot. It needs the other component in order to emulsify. You do need that blend. But there are lots of other emulsifiers on the market. You'll watch me show you some in episode 8 when we walk through alternatives. I've got one here, for instance, that's called Olivem 1000. And each emulsifier has different instructions that come with it. And you just follow the supplier's instructions. There'll be a minimum, there'll be a maximum. Some of them will make really thin emulsions all the way up to quite thick ones. Some of them are very specialist. There are dozens and dozens of different emulsifiers out there. All of them that we use come from natural sources, and they're really exciting to work with. But we just wanted to get you started with something straightforward that's fairly easy to get around the world, which is why we used this one, which is Vegetal or Montanov 68. So do follow along with today's lesson.
I'm glad that Lorraine's mentioned lesson 8 there, because that's why we've done this. That's why we split it up into 9 lessons, because we really can't tell you everything just in one lesson. It's designed in a particular way, so you really do get the best results out of the masterclass, and you're able to make your cream. So do not worry. Just saying shout out to Sarah. Good evening, I'm Sarah, watching from London, England. Hi, I'm around the corner. I only came across this masterclass yesterday by chance. That is amazing. Thank you so much. Awesome. We do love it when people just pop along, and then, you know, who knows, like your life can change in an instant. So welcome, Sarah.
As Lisa said at the beginning, over 50,000 people have signed up for this masterclass. So you're in the right place, Sarah, because we are the leading formulation school for a reason. So big warm welcome.
Is the masterclass is completely unique. So I know that there's other things on the internet, but I think we can say in all confidence with the masterclass that we're giving you, the lives and the workbook, everything really is there in a step-by-step play for you to make your own formulation. So you're in the right place. So Julie says, in lesson 2, they mentioned rinsing the equipment in soap and water. Now, I don't know the answer to this, but would running them in a dishwashing cycle work? So who wants to take that? Brooke?
So some of your equipment, things like your beakers and your mini whisk, you could wash in the dishwasher if you really wanted to, but it wouldn't work enough to sterilize them and sanitize them. You need to have something else as well. So you would need to use the alcohol as always. That wouldn't change.
Mm-hmm.
It's best to hand wash them if you can. Use a cloth and a sponge and make sure you get everything off, because it's more thorough than using a dishwasher. But it's technically possible, but we would really recommend that you hand wash them if you can.
So no dishwashing action if preferable.
Maybe start with the dishwasher and then wash them by hand, but literally no one wants to do that, do they?
No. It's easier just to soak them in hot water for a while and then change the water, rub them around with a bit of washing up liquid, and it works just perfectly fine that way. It's a bit quicker than trying to wait for them to go through a dishwasher, especially if you've only got a few beakers and things. If you're wanting to make a big batch of things, you might need to sort of wash them quickly so you have a quicker turnaround. Whereas, if you put them in the dishwasher, you've got to wait an hour and a half, maybe longer, to have them be clean.
And my dishwasher goes for 90 minutes. So yes, I understand completely what you're saying. So I don't actually know how to pronounce this name, but we'll give it a go. We have a question from, sorry, let's just try that again.
Doesn't want to come up.
Doesn't want to come up. I'll read it out. Sorry, I don't know what's happening. I think it's Celine Town who says, what is a hydrosol? Which is a good question, because we throw out all these names. We just kind of expect people to know exactly what they are, but it obviously is something and gets to that stage for a reason. So Lorraine, I can see you're very excited about hydrosols. What is a hydrosol?
I've got one here, actually. I should add, first of all, I explained this in lesson 3, which is now available in your study area. So do go and watch it. All the lessons are just 10 minutes. You don't want to sit and watch a 4-hour-long training video. We've made them super short for you. But a hydrosol, I've got one here. This is orange flower hydrosol, which is what we use in the emulsion that we're going to teach you to make. Let me just hold it up. It's a flower water, and it is, well, people call it a byproduct of essential oil distillation, but I think that's maybe a little unkind to hydrosols. It's the water that comes out of the distillation process. You'll have heard of rose water, most likely. It's often used in cooking. A hydrosol is rose water, effectively, but you can make hydrosols out of lots of different plants. And once you start to investigate all the different types of botanical hydrosols out there, it's really exciting, and you start to realize the possibilities. So these hydrosols are water-based ingredients that contain water-soluble chemical compounds. And we'll talk a little bit more about solubility tomorrow in lesson 4, so stay tuned for that one. But if you haven't watched lesson 3 yet, go and watch it, because I explain what a hydrosol is in there too.
In fact, if you have watched lessons 1, 2, and 3, let us know in the comments. Just give us a little raise up, or a 1, 2, 3, or however you want to, a GIF, however you want to show us. But it's really good to know. Well, it's great just to see how many people are kind of like watching it in time. So if you are up to date with the lessons, just feel free to give us a little shout out so we can say hello. Let's try this. Oh, technology is not being my friend today. It doesn't want to show for some reason. Let me see if I can read it out. Oh, someone says, it's my birthday and this is the best birthday present ever. So happy birthday. Sorry, I can't see your name. Oh, okay, here we go. I don't know why it's not coming up, but I do have the power of sight, so I can read it out. Someone says, can I use water instead of a hydrosol? So is that possible? Brooke?
You could use distilled water instead of a hydrosol. We would recommend you use distilled water, which is a kind of water that's gone through a distillation process to remove any of the impurities. So that is perfectly doable, no problem at all. You don't then get the plant extract and the benefits out of the plant in that product, but it is definitely doable. I wouldn't use don't use tap water, don't sort of take some water straight out of the tap, because the minerals and that are within the water will affect the emulsion and the stability of the product that you end up with. But distilled water you can definitely use if you're on a tight budget. You can buy sort of a big bottle of it and make loads and loads of creams, and we do recommend doing that more when you're testing new products, things like emulsifiers, and it's useful, but you then don't get any of the goodness from the plant out of
The
it.
good stuff. And the smell, and all that kind of thing.
And the smell as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Distilled water doesn't smell like anything, so you would just smell like emulsifier.
I've got another comment here. So again, sorry, it's not actually coming up on the screen. Not sure about that, but let me see if I can fix that as we go. Oh, no. Angeline says, can I use, sorry, I've already read that one. Any suggestions if not using a dual probe thermometer? And that's from Angeline as well. Don't use your finger.
No. We're laughing because Lisa suggested that a few years ago.
I didn't suggest it. I said it as a joke, but I kind of did suggest it, but yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
There's also such a thing as a laser thermometer. I mean, honestly, you're just starting out here. The majority of the people taking part in this masterclass, over 50,000 people, many of whom I'd say most of whom have never formulated before. So don't get too hung up about the equipment. You can use a laser thermometer. You can use a meat thermometer. I've even got one that I use for my kids where I sort of aim at their heads, that, one of those laser thermometers that you can use for objects as well. Don't get too worried about it at this stage. If you decide to become a formulator, get a proper dedicated thermometer that you'll work with when you're in your home formulation lab. But for now, just make do with what you have, honestly.
That is brilliant. Good advice. So Gamer says, how can I get the booklet? We're only going to answer this once because we answer this so much that we must drive people absolutely insane. Oh, someone's from Washington. Yes, so you register, we send you a link to your study area and you can download your booklet, and we have all your ingredients, supply guides, everything is in there. So we're only going to be saying that for a short period more because it's so easy. We've made it so easy for you to get everything you need, so nobody should be worried about the booklet.
Yes, right. And can I just add that when you go to your study area, at the top, there's a big red button that says download your Masterclass Workbook. If you click on that, it's there. And we do spend a lot of time answering this question during the webinar. Yes. So just make sure you've signed up, you've got the email that points towards your study area, and click on the big red button. And this will be yours too. And print it out. Take a selfie of yourself with it. Put it on the internet. Tag us. Hashtag it. Formula Botanica. All those things.
And we do recommend you print it out because it's just easier to see. It's better to work with. And, we say it all the time, but as Formula Botanica's tagline is, if you haven't written it down, it didn't happen. So if you haven't written it down, you didn't make the cream. Yeah.
Can I just quickly interject whilst you go through all the questions, because I know there are a ton coming in. I'm seeing a lot of the same questions come past. And I also know that a lot of the questions you're asking are in the masterclass. They've all been answered already in lessons 1, 2, and 3. So what I want everyone here to do is, if you haven't watched 1, 2, and 3 yet, go and watch it now. Honestly, half an hour of your time, you can watch all 3 of them in one go. And then you're done and you know exactly what I'm talking about. So go and make sure that you've actually watched it, because I promise you a lot of the questions that you're asking at the moment are in there. And a lot of the questions I'm seeing coming in will also be answered in future episodes. So don't worry too much, but please make sure you do go and watch it.
And you can also watch when you're making dinner in the bath. Just, they've been, separated into 10-minute kind of mini Netflix episodes, if you will, to kind of make it easier to digest for you. So that is why we designed it. So yeah, Lorraine is absolutely correct. So question for Tashana Stevens. What is carrot oil? This is another good one to cover because we hear that term kind of around. Do people actually know what it means? So what is carrot oil? Lorraine.
Over to me.
Yes.
So a carrier oil is an oil that is extracted generally from a seed or a nut, although some of them come from fruits as well. It's different to an essential oil. So I don't want you to confuse the two. So in lesson 3 of your masterclass, which went out today, you watched me use sweet almond oil, which sits at the base of your emulsion. And it's basically the fatty components that are extracted from the almond nut. And I'm sure if we sit down and talk about different oils, you can probably think of some as well. Olive oil is a carrier oil. Sunflower oil is a carrier oil. Coconut oil is a carrier oil. And there are hundreds and hundreds of them. And once you start to investigate it, it's really exciting to sort of see what's possible. And in episode 8 of your masterclass, which goes out on Monday, I think, in that I will show you several other carrier oils as well. Have I summarized that right, Brooke? Was there anything you'd add?
No, you've done that really well. Yeah, it's just basically a oil that's extracted from something like a nut, a seed, a fruit, and it's essentially they call them carrier oils. It's an aromatherapy term that comes from, we essentially use it to carry other ingredients into the skin. So in terms of aromatherapy, it would be the essential oils. It's used as a carrier for those. But in this product, we use it as a beneficial product in its own right. It has its own skincare benefits. It does amazing things for the skin in its own right. But the carrier oil name just sort of sticks. So
good, thank you very
much. A simple way of differentiating it between that and essential oils.
So this name isn't appearing. So this name isn't here, but someone says, what do I do? I'm feeling overwhelmed. So what do you recommend to do when you start becoming overwhelmed with all the ingredients you have to work with and learn from? So Lorraine's giving a little sigh, but like she knows what to say. Because I just want to quickly say before Lorraine answers, we get this question, but it's okay. Just take a breath. Just, it's okay. We're all in it together. And also remember, sorry, Lorraine, I gave this question to you and I'm answering it. But remember that everyone is, was in the same stage. You can look at people that have been making, fabulous things, but everyone starts as a seed and then grows. So I just want to throw that in as someone that's in the community a lot. I'm seeing people say this again and again. But sorry, Lorraine, yes, you answer.
I think you answered it beautifully.
Yeah.
I just don't want you to feel overwhelmed by it. I want you to just take it one step at a time.
And
that's
have fun.
Also exactly. But that's also why we've broken the masterclass down into 9 videos that are really short, 9 short lessons, 10 minutes each. And I just want you to focus on that lesson for the day and really take it all in. Watch it a couple of times. You might get more out of it if you go back and maybe binge watch the first 3 together, as they're all available now. But try not to think ahead and start to think, oh my God, there's 200 carrier oils. Just think, okay, at the moment, I'm just working with one. And I'm going to just get to grips with that one. And when I first started formulating, I would order lots of little samples of carrier oils because there are some great suppliers out there. And obviously we've linked to a few. Big shout out to the 6 who have masterclass kits. And I would just try those neat on my skin because carrier oils are generally absolutely fine to use neat on your skin. And I'd have like a week where I was just massaging strawberry seed oil into my face every night. And I would just get to grips. It was a good week. Yeah. And I would just get to grips with that one ingredient and then I'd move on to the next one. So don't feel like you have to learn everything in one go because that's not good for anyone.
Yeah, absolutely right. We have a question from Vithya. I'm going to say, is it possible to make hydrosol at home in any way? Have we done this question? I can't remember. Brooke?
It is definitely possible. I have seen people do it before. You can get distillers that you can use, but they're a little bit expensive, or you can also use saucepans with things like an upside down lid. There's a few different ways of doing it. I've never personally made my own hydrosol, so I couldn't really advise on the specifics, but have a look in Dr. Google and see if you can find anything there that will help you with ways of making them. But I know some people in the team do make their own hydrosols, so it is definitely possible.
That's a whole separate ball game to becoming a formulator, because then you're creating your ingredients, and we don't teach you how to create your ingredients, we teach you how to formulate.
And that leads into our next question from Kayla. Says, how do we know as Formula Botanica what ingredients works best together? Well, because we're the best.
Yes.
That's all there is to say about that. We've got the best in the business, and we don't put anything out there before it's tried and tested. This isn't something we've just thrown together. We make sure it's safe. We test everything. We have amazing staff from all over the world, and we're confident in what we do. So that is the answer to that one. Unless you want to add anything, Lorraine.
Well, as a formulator, once you have gained some experience in the basics, I mean, you want to learn to walk before you can run, you then start to understand how different base ingredients work together. And this is one of the first things we teach when people come and enroll with us on our foundation diploma. It just comes through trial and error, really. And honestly, the vast majority of natural ingredients are absolutely fine to work with each other. There isn't really an issue. It doesn't start to become complex until you get to the more high performance ingredients. But I wouldn't worry about it at this stage, Kayla. Just go with the flow and have fun with what we're teaching. And once you get to episode 8, I'll show you some other carrier oils, some other hydrosols, some other emulsifiers, some other botanical extracts, some other preservatives. And at that point, I want you to go out and start to create your own, because that's when you become a formulator and not a recipe follower, which is, of course, what most people are when they come to Formula Botanica. And we turn them all into formulators, which is fantastic.
From DIYs to formulators. So Sarah says, how do I make a water bath in my own lab? So Brooke, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, so this is nice and easy. It's really simple. All you need is a heat source. So you could use your stove or your cooker. You could use a hot plate, which you can buy, that are essentially just one ring stovetops with the plug into an electrical outlet. And then you need some sort of pan, so like a saucepan. I've personally used milk pans, so small saucepans, and then you fill it up with water. So it's really simple to do. You can do it where you have a pan of water and a glass bowl on the top. It's really simple, lots of nice ways of doing it, and it just depends on what heat source you have as to what kind of things you use to make it. But it's essentially just heat source, bowl of water.
Right, simple. So next one is from Lisa. Good name. Can I start using my cream after lesson 3? So if someone's watched 3 lessons and they've made the emulsion, can they just go crazy?
On that day and the next day, yes. You could probably keep it in the fridge until day 5 of your masterclass. I mean, when you'll be adding botanicals to it. I wouldn't keep it for longer than a week in the fridge, though, because it isn't preserved. And we're going to run through all of this in episode 6 and 7 of your masterclass. But just to have a go with it, play around with it, use it as your test cream, add the botanicals to it when we get to episode 5, add the preservative to it when we get to episode 7, then do the whole thing again. That's why all the kits that have been sold by these 6 awesome suppliers that we've been working with, let me just name them: Aromantic, Naturally Balmy, Alex Mo, Go Native New Zealand, Essential Wholesale, and Natural Heroes in the Netherlands. They've all been stocking these kits, and they've put enough ingredients in the kits for you to make the cream 3 times. So if you did buy from them, you should have enough to do it again after lesson 7. So just use this as a practice cream for now.
Great. Just to address a couple of the questions in the live about replays, you can go back and obviously watch, if people will be watching this after it ends. Leave your question and we will try and answer it. We're in the SEM on the Facebook page, and we're on YouTube as well. A couple of people asking, can I watch this on YouTube? We're everywhere. So we will go back to these threads. Well, when I say we, I mean the lovely Brooke will go back. I will send her the links and try and help you. Yeah, I can see you laughing there, Brooke. We're going to make Brooke earn her money this week and answer some of your questions. So we will help you as much as possible. So Maura says, what do I do if my emulsion separates? So this is obviously something that maybe people are worried about, maybe before they've started, but what should they do? Lorraine?
I think Brooke wanted to take that one.
Sorry. I'm trying to do it even, trying to space it out.
So this is something that essentially means that the whole emulsification process hasn't gone quite right. So I would start by looking at the way you're whisking the product. Make sure you're blending it thoroughly with your mini whisk to make sure the phases are fully combined. Check the temperatures you heated it to. Make sure they were both around 75 to 78 degrees Celsius. Because sometimes if you add sort of a cold water phase into the oil, it can split and it doesn't work well then. Another thing you could do is, if you're using vegetal, the amount of emulsifier we've given you is the correct amount for that product. But if you're using a different emulsifier, if you've needed to substitute it for any reason, you might need to change the amount of emulsifier you're using in the cream. So that's something we cover further in the masterclass of making substitutions. But so don't worry about it for now. But there's a couple of things it could be. Check the temperature, check the way you're stirring it, and just make sure that all of your ingredients are within date. They're all nice and stable, and try it again. Sometimes it just does it randomly and you don't know why, but make sure you try it again and just take notes, write everything down in your workbook so that you remember what you did, and you can try and avoid it again next time.
Great, thank you, Brooke. So Tonya says, can I use herb infused oils that I can make in my, I think she's essentially saying, can she use something that she's made herself in this formulation? What would we say to her?
Yes, absolutely. And this is part of the fun part of formulating, obviously, because you can infuse your botanicals into what you're making. I mean, I'll mention this as well in episode 8. You'll see this when I walk through substitutions. I think I even mentioned it in lesson 3, actually, episode 3, which of course went out today, was released today on your study area. So please do go and watch it if you haven't yet. By all means, play around with infused oils, macerated oils, they're also known as. They're a lot of fun. We have a great blog post about it and about making macerated oils, in fact, formulating with them on our website as well. If you haven't checked out our blog, by the way, please do, formulabotanica.com/blog. We've got over 400 articles on there, all about formulation, ingredients, starting your beauty business. It is a treasure trove of information, and you need to go and check it out.
I'm glad you just said that, actually, because I was going to address a lot of people saying, can I make, because we're talking about different things. So can I make this? Can I make that? Go to the blog section, and it's such a handy little search option at the top. You just chuck in anything, chuck in hair and everything, conditioners, serums, all this kind of thing will come up. So as I think you've stolen my phrase, actually, because I've been calling it a treasure trove since I got here, Lorraine. It really is amazing. So please go and check that. Oh, Claire says, Lorraine, how did you start formulating? That's a bit interesting.
I think we probably don't have time for me to go through the whole history of this, but I'll tell you what, is it Claire? I've done lots and lots of podcast interviews, actually. So if you I'm sure the team can drop something in the comments, but yeah, I think that one's for another time. But come and listen to some of the interviews I've done with other people, or just go to Apple Podcasts and type in my name, and then you'll find them.
Lorraine's basically done too much. We can't answer that in this live, but we do very much appreciate the question, Claire. Okay, so Leonie says, how can I preserve my formulation? We're not going to answer that, kind of a trick question, only because we do answer that down the line. So I don't know if anyone has anything to add, Lorraine and Brooke, but we are going to answer that because we know it's important and we are going to do it. But there's a stage to everything, and Lorraine is lovingly modeling.
Lesson 6 is how to choose your preservatives. And then in lesson 7, you're going to watch me take the cream and preserve it. And we've already listed the preservative that we're using. But in lesson 8, episode 8, I'll be sharing a few alternatives with you as well. So stay tuned for that one. We'll also be running 2 more live Q&As with our education team. We've got one on Friday. I'm not in that one, but I think you are, aren't you, Brooke? And you're there, Lisa?
It's Anna.
Oh, it's Anna.
Yeah.
Anna. Awesome. And then we've got another one on Monday when I'll be back for that one. And I think I'm on with Eliza as well. So we'll be here answering your questions about the lessons in the masterclass as we move forward. And that's really what this Q&A is for. And I know there's a lot of people asking, how do I make this? How do I make this? Mm-hmm. We are focused on the lessons here today and giving you tutor support as you work through your lessons. So please do make the most of this while we're here for you.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm not quite sure who this is. So someone says, how cold does my water bath need to be to cool my emulsion? So is there a specific temperature that it needs to be? Brooke?
Not necessarily. There's not a specific temperature that you have to have. You just need it to be colder than the emulsion that you're cooling down, essentially. Mm-hmm. So in the masterclass, we just use cold tap water. You take just a bowl, cold tap water straight out of your kitchen sink or whatever, and then you put your beaker in there to cool it down. You can also add ice if you want to speed up the cool down process, but it's not 100% necessary. Sometimes it's better to cool it down a bit more gently and just use the water to encourage it to speed up the cool down process. You want it to come to sort of below 30 to 40 degrees Celsius. So that's where you want to start adding your cool down ingredients, which we get into later on in the masterclass. But so there's not a specific temperature, but you want it to be sort of around 20 degrees Celsius, probably even a bit lower depending on the temperature of your tap water.
Great, thank you. Caroline says, can you put the beakers directly onto a hot plate?
I wouldn't suggest it, no.
Did you see the heads go then? It was like the horrifying thought of it. No, Caroline is the answer to that.
So take a saucepan, fill it with a bit of water, and then put your beaker within that pan of water, and that basically it stops the glass from shattering, because if you're putting your beaker directly on a hot plate, you have the small amount of surface area that's in contact that'll get very, very hot, and it can scorch the bottom of your emulsion and can also then damage your beakers. Whereas if you have it in a water source, the water around it heats up, and it heats up more evenly, the same way as you would melting chocolate. If you put chocolate in a pan and heat it, it tends to scorch it, but if you put it in a bowl over warm water, it then melts more gently and doesn't burn.
Thank you, Brooke. Just quickly addressing as well, the lessons, we've got 3 lessons that are available. We're still seeing a few comments saying that they've missed them. You haven't missed anything. There are just 3 lessons available, and there are more to come. We release them every day. So, and there are 9 in total. So you can, as Lorraine says, you can watch it. Don't leave, but you can watch it as soon as this live is ended, and yeah, get started.
Yeah, this is just a bonus Q&A for you to have your questions answered as you work through the pre-recorded masterclass materials. So do go and watch them, because honestly, you're going to get so much value out of this, and all for free.
Yeah. So maybe we could answer this later, but we'll give it a go. So can we use sea buckthorn oil instead of sea buckthorn CO2 extract? This person is asking. What do we think?
So if you can't get a hold of the CO2 extract, yes, you can use the oil, no problem at all. It's going to have a slightly lighter colour to it, not quite so strong orange, but no, it's perfectly doable to just have the oil instead of the extract.
And we will cover in a lesson down the line and in the lives as well, different substitutions that you can use. So don't worry if you have all these questions, just follow the lessons, join the lives, and you can ask us about swapping over stuff, and you can have fun and modify your formulation, because that's what it's all about. Yep. Okay, so D. Brian says, why do I need, oh, have we done this? Why do I need to heat my ingredients to 75 degrees? We haven't done this one, have we?
No. You don't have to heat all of your ingredients. You're just heating the ingredients that use the emulsifier. So the ingredient that blends that blends your oil and water together, you're heating that because that's the temperature at which this particular emulsifier is activated. However, there are also cold process emulsifiers, for instance, which don't need heating at all. It's just that this specific one does, which is why we've done that. However, if you bought a different emulsifier that is maybe, like I said, cold process, for instance, then it would just work at room temperature. So it depends entirely on the emulsifier that you're using and the overall formulation that you're putting together. But not every single formulation needs to be heated to 75 degrees Celsius, just this one specifically because of the emulsifier. And that also covered in lesson 3. So I hope you watched that one if you had the chance.
And also, you know, watch the lessons, but I'm just going to repeat again, to join our Skincare Entrepreneur Mastermind group if you haven't yet, because there's so many people in there that we're flooding in, asking questions, getting tips and advice from people, have picked up ideas of other stuff they want to make, because there's 70,000 people in there now. So go in, just go say hi. You don't need to have made anything to join it. Just go in, take a look at the posts, and you'll see what a supportive and a good community is to join if you want to formulate, and if you just want to have fun with ingredients. So fully recommend joining that. So Bryony says, what is the difference between a herbal infusion and a hydrosol? Brooke?
Okay, so a hydrosol, as Lorraine explained earlier, is the water that comes off when producing essential oils. So the plant matter is essentially distilled within the water itself. It's normally either clear or has a slight colour to it, has a slight scent to it. A herbal infusion is essentially tea. So it's where you've taken dried or sometimes fresh plant matter, poured hot water over it and let it infuse for it to come out. Yeah, so it's essentially the same thing as tea. Rather than it being distilled, it's been infused. So you can use herbal infusions if you want to. They're something that you could sort of ideally want to use and either preserve and keep or use immediately and put within a product. But if it's something you want to experiment with, definitely go for it and see if you enjoy it.
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned tea because Lorraine just took a sip of her tea and I'm really jealous because this live is getting in the way of my tea needs. It's time for a tea. Right, Denise says, is it safe to make the cream and preserve it on a different day, or would it be safer to make the cream once all the episodes are released? So what would we say to Denise? Lorraine?
Either. I mean, I would prefer for you to make it all in one go if you're going to use it. If you're just practicing and following along, then it doesn't matter if you're preserving it at a later date, because at that point you're just trying the formulation itself and you can just throw that away afterwards, dispose of it responsibly. If you want to make the cream to use, and just to remind you yet again, this is what you're going to learn to make. Sorry, my lights are very bright, so it's washing it out a little bit. Then do it all in one go after lesson 7, episode 7 is released. And at that point, you will also get access, I think it's the following day, to the full formulation sheet with all of the ingredients and the grams. But by that point, you'll have completed everything, of course, in your workbook, where you'll be filling in your weights and measures as you go along. So generally, if you're going to use the cream, I wouldn't wait, obviously, 5 days in order to preserve it. But this is just a practice session, and then do it all again.
Fabulous. Thank you, Lorraine. So this looks like a lovely name. I know I'm going to be able to pronounce it right. Amaryllis says, how do I determine the shelf life of the product? So how long is the product going to last after we created our formulation?
Can I take that one?
Yeah.
Stability testing. So you need to learn how to stability test your product. Actually, I'm going to be talking a little bit about this later on in the live webinar that will come after the masterclass, which I hope you'll be able to join as well, because that's always a fun one too. But you need to be able to test the product and how it stands up for its shelf life. You sort of accelerate the conditions under normal use, and then you'll be able to set an actual value on how long that product's shelf life is. And in fact, we teach an entire certificate on this. But honestly, don't worry about it at the moment, because right now we're just focusing on making this emulsion, making it botanical, preserving it properly, and then thinking about how you can turn a formulation into a business at the end of it.
Fantastic. Good summary. Someone says, I'm starting to see the possibilities, which is great. Thank you. Thank you for the positivity. Felicity says, or asks rather, how long does the emulsion need to be stirred for during the cooling phase? So how long does that go on for? Brooke, I can see some smiles.
So there's not necessarily a set time of how long you need to stir it for. You'll be able to tell when you're stirring it when the emulsions come together. It's normally, if you're using a hand whisk and you're just using a little mini whisk, it's normally sort of 5 to 10 minutes, not necessarily. It's not set in stone, it depends on how long, but it will come together very, very quickly if you're whisking vigorously. So there's not a specific time how long you have to do it for, just watch it, pay attention to the way it's changing, and you'll be able to tell. Keep stirring it as it cools down. You don't necessarily need to stir it constantly. You can stir it, sort of give it a good mix, leave it for a second, give it a good mix again, and come back to it and let it cool down. So there's different ways you can do it. Try it, see which way works best for you, but there's not a specific time.
That's a good mantra. Try it, see if it works. Come back,
Yes.
come back and let us know.
Formulation.
Mantra of life. I think we've covered this a little, but I'm going to chuck it up anyway. So Lindsay says, can I use different oils or hydrosols to make the cream base you made in lesson 3? So
Yes.
what would we say?
Absolutely. And that's what makes you a formulator and not necessarily a recipe follower. Now, in episode 8 of your masterclass, you'll watch me go through lots of different alternatives, and there are many more. I'll mention loads of them as well. That's just to sort of get your creativity flowing and to get you thinking about how you can take the foundation formulation that we've given you and maybe make your own. And at that point, you start to experiment, you start to add in different botanicals, you start to choose ones that mean something to you, i.e. that fit your formulation philosophy, and then you're well on your way to becoming a formulator. So I think that's a very exciting question, Lindsay, and I look forward to hearing which ones you're going to use. So do come over into our Skincare Entrepreneur Mastermind on Facebook, 70,000 members, as you heard Lisa say, and come and tell us which ingredients you're going to make the cream with.
So Samantha says, I don't know if she's asking in general, but she might have be asking emulsion. What causes air bubbles? So do people have trouble with air bubbles in their up to this stage? There's lots of nodding.
Yeah, so you might get some air bubbles in your emulsion and this normally comes between if you're whisking it too hard. If you've sort of whisked it too long, you might incorporate some air. It's very rare when you're using a mini whisk. This is something that it ends up being more of a problem if you're using a mini homogenizer, or if you use something like a milk frother. People sometimes use milk frothers to mix the product with, and that'll cause a lot of air bubbles because it's designed to incorporate as much air as possible, which is not what you want when you're formulating. You want as little air in the product as possible. So try and make sure you're whisking slowly. Don't whisk too vigorously for too long, so you can whisk it vigorously for it to come together, but don't keep doing it for sort of minutes and minutes and minutes. So it should just come together quite quickly and easily.
Great. Can I just do a quick check-in in the chat, because we've been on for 50 minutes and I know there's lots of people on with us from all over the world. In the chat, wherever you're watching us, either YouTube or Facebook or our Facebook group, post up how many lessons in our masterclass you've watched so far. So 3 if you've watched all 3, 2 if you've still got 1 to go, 1 if you're playing catch up, and go on, fess up if you haven't watched any yet. Tell us in the comments and tell us what your plan is.
Well, your plan should be to watch all 9, but yes, yeah, tell us what you've watched. Yeah, we've got a couple of questions to go. Sorry, what was that? Anyone?
I was going to say they're flooding in now.
Thank you, Lorraine. Now I've lost my question.
Sorry.
Okay, let's see. I don't know who this is. So sorry, you might just be coming up as user. So this lovely person says, let me just see if he wants to come up. What about the temperature of the room in which we prepare our concoctions, is the word they use?
I think that's a really good question, actually. What's interesting is, I mean, Formula Botanica is 10 years old now. Last month, we turned 10. And as part of that, I've been telling the story of how we grew to where we are today, the world's leading formulation school. And you can go check it out on my Facebook page, actually, Lorraine Dahlmeyer. And one of the stories I told was when we initially filmed the videos for our courses, you know, we were in studios with really hot studio lights. And that does absolutely affect the stability of your formulations. And we hadn't even realized how hot these lights would be because we'd never done anything like this before. I mean, this was way back in the early days of Formula Botanica. So yes, the sort of ambient temperature in your studio, in your lab, can affect the formulations that you make. So do try and keep it sort of a fairly even temperature. Don't have it too hot, don't have it too cold. And yeah, just make sure that, you know, you're not sweating as well, because if you're standing there sweating, then, you know, it's going to be hard to get your, first of all, your emulsion to cool down, your balm to solidify, you know, whatever it is you're making is going to struggle in that sort of temperature. Oh, Lisa, are you muted? Oh, have we lost you? Oh no, the joy of tech. Okay, so Lisa has lost her voice, which is a first, I think. Yes, we can still see you. It's all good. How about I read out some questions because we're coming to the end anyway. Some people are asking, because I'm seeing lots of comments come past about different ingredients. So I just want to say, don't worry too much if you can't get specific ingredients for the masterclass. We're going to cover alternatives in episode 8. And then we also did a live stream, which is still available on YouTube and on our Facebook page, where we talk through each of the individual ingredients. And of course, there is a supplier guide as well that comes with your workbook. When you log in, Lisa can still point to the workbook. Lisa, try the setting cog again, by the way, underneath, and see if that does anything. When you log into your study area, there's a big red button at the top, workbook, and underneath it, there's a link to Masterclass suppliers. Go and check on that link, and hopefully you'll be able to go and buy the ingredients. But if you can't get them, don't panic, because we're going to walk through alternatives. No, we still can't hear you. Don't know how this happened. The joys of going live. There's always something. We love you anyway, Lisa. Don't leave, because the whole thing will shut down since you're the host. So I can see lots and lots of comments coming in from people saying, I watched all 3. Oh, I like this. You're going to put up the questions and we answer them. All right, one for you, Brooke. What do I do if my formulation fails first time?
So try it again is the simple answer, because nothing necessarily always works first time, unfortunately. But if it fails first time, please don't be discouraged. Write down everything that you did, write it all down in your workbook, in your notes section, take all the notes you can think of, and try it again. So there could be lots of different reasons it fails. There could be lots of different things that have gone wrong. So if your formulation has failed and you're not quite sure what's gone wrong with it, put a comment in the thread, or put it in one of the posts in the SEM, and everyone can sort of jump in and see if we can help you answer and figure out what it is. But important thing is, don't panic and try it again.
Yeah. And just a reminder, SEM stands for Skincare Entrepreneur Mastermind, which is our big group on Facebook with over 70,000 members, and is where we're also partly hosting this masterclass. Have you got any more questions for us, Lisa? I love it. Thank you, everyone. Okay. I'm so sorry if we haven't answered every question. I mean, I've been sat here just watching them flood past us. There have been so many. But don't forget, we're running these Q&As to support you as you go through the masterclass. And we're going to be running 2 more of them. Now, normally our education team is incredibly busy dealing with and supporting our students the best they can. I mean, there's 9 people in the team. They work flat out to do their best for you, but they've just diverted their attention just for this week, which is why we're running these 3 live Q&As with our education team members to help you formulate this face cream. And I want to see your formulations. I want to see your formulation photos. I want to see your workbook selfies. I want to see you taking part, because formulation, as I keep saying, is, let's bring it up, fun, easy, and empowering. And exactly, Brooke's got it there. Everyone should formulate. So make sure you take part, because you're going to get so much out of this. And if you have questions that we haven't answered, come and join us on Friday, as Lisa is now communicating with us only in writing. I'm so sorry we lost you, Lisa, but you'll be back again soon, and then we'll be able to hear you. Thank you, everyone, for joining us on YouTube, on Facebook. Thank you, Lisa, for hosting us so expertly. I don't know what happened with the tech, but that's the joy of live. Thank you, Brooke, for all of your answers. As always, it's wonderful to hear from your experience. And thank you, everyone watching today. I really hope that you're enjoying this masterclass. Tomorrow will be episode 4. So if you're catching up, now is the time to catch up. Episode 4 is all about how you choose botanicals. So how do you know which botanical extracts to add into your formulation? And then we'll be following that up with episode 5, which is on Friday, when we'll be actually adding those botanicals into your face cream, so you can start to create the base of your botanical foundation, the botanical emulsion that you're making. The next live, I can't remember what the time is. Does anyone know? It's in my calendar. Hang on, let me check. The next live is at 4 p.m. UK time. So that would be 11 a.m. Eastern time on Friday. And at that point, we'll have 3 members of our team on live with you, who will be answering your questions about how to make your formulation botanical. So come armed with all of your questions, come and join us, and make sure you've watched the masterclass videos. Brilliant. Thank you very much, everyone. See you soon. Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.